So I started today feeling sort of overwhelmed. And so I realize there's a lot of reasons to feel overwhelmed. Right now we are still obviously in the COVID-19 era where it looked like maybe there was some lightning restrictions happening, and now looks like that's been at least slowed down or delayed a bit, and we're kind of probably in a similar boat for a little while. So I uh, I I was frustrated by that. And then I go online, I go into social media, and of course, just right now during the season, there's just a lot of tragedy in the world. There's tragedy in our community. There's tragedy in our nation, and just tragedy all across the board. Things that I can't explain, things that make me sad and just make me feel somewhat hopeless. So I thought the best step for that would be to just check out the Bible, see where I could find some encouragement in the Bible. So I did a little Google search to try to find some encouraging verses, and I was scrolling through a few results, and I came across Exodus 14:14. And the truth is, I don't normally turn to Exodus for my encouragement, so that kind of made me want to take a closer look. Exodus 14:14 says, "The Lord himself will fight for you. Just stay calm." And I thought, well, that's, sounds promising. I'm going to know more about that. So I found my way to Exodus to kind of figure out the context of that statement and so forth. And I found in Exodus 14 that it was the story of how the Israelites were escaping, years and years of slavery in Egypt. And they had, over obviously a series of events and the plagues and so forth, they had, the Egyptian Pharaoh had finally told them to go, and then they were on their way away when he changed his mind and started to pursue them. And so that was the context of this, where Moses was saying to the Israelites, that the Lord Himself will fight for you. Just stay calm. And so as I was building towards that seemed to have a lot of encouragement. But then it continued into verse 15, where God was basically challenging Moses to not just sit around and remain in this calm state, but to take action, where he specifically, gave him the instructions that allowed him to part the Red Sea, and they were able to get across, and the uh, Egyptians were trapped in the Red Sea, which led to their basically liberation from the Egyptians. So, um, as I was processing through all of that, I wanted to kind of share with you what I took from that, and I would encourage you maybe to check out Exodus 14 if you haven't. Maybe it's been a while for you too, and see what you gather from reading that. But for me, I realized three things. The first is that God is still God, even in the midst of a situation like that, and a situation like the one I'm in. And that was just a good reminder for me, but that not only is God still God, but that God will fight for me. And more specifically, God was the one who was leading the Israelites on this path. And so I believe that God has a plan for me. I believe He has a plan for my life. And I know that this season of COVID and this season of just tragedy in our world isn't something that is a surprise to Him. He knows that that is happening, and He's still God within that. And He is still, able to be the strength that I need to continue on my journey, which is basically I'm attempting to be in step with Him in that journey, right? It's His plan for my life that I'm trying to follow. So He's still God over that, and He will fight for me, and He will fight for my ability to, continue on the mission that I'm on to follow His will for my life. The second thing is to be calm. Other versions of the Bible say to be still, and I'm associating that now, especially with the later context of the verse, as to sometimes it's just necessary to take a deep breath, right? And a deep breath and a moment of meditation and calm does help to sort of center me, helps to keep me focused, and it's really important when I'm feeling overwhelmed to take that deep breath. But this also connects to the third thing, in that when I think about taking a deep breath, when I'm if I'm gonna, like, I don't know, not that I do a lot of diving, but if I was in a swimming pool and I wanted to go under, I would take a deep breath before I go under to just sustain me while I'm under. And so I realized that sometimes sort of being calm and taking that moment and taking that deep breath is about kind of finding an equilibrium, finding a peace, but it also is a tool that we can use. We take that breath so we can be prepared for what comes next. And that's what I was reminded of today as well, that we can we need to take the action too. And, after we trust God with it, after we understand that the Lord will fight for us and we take that deep breath, there's still a call to action. Just like he called Moses to take certain steps to liberate the Israelites, he's calling me, even in this time, to take certain steps. And he's calling you to take certain steps. And those things haven't been eliminated because of what's going on. In fact, in some ways we have a greater calling because of what's going on both in the world at large, and in our circle and what's happening with us. And so I was just challenged to really consider and think about what is it that God is preparing me for in this time. And when I'm feeling overwhelmed, I need to remember that he is still God. I need to take that deep breath, and then I need to translate that into action in terms of continuing to follow through with what he has for me. So I know it's important for me to remember God still has a plan for me even during all this. And so I want to encourage you with that as well. It's okay to feel overwhelmed, but it's important to remember that, that God is God, that he will sustain us through this, but he also wants us to be calm in order to take action steps and move forward. And so I pray that he will reveal to you what action steps he has for you, the way that he is doing that for me, and that we will together be able to continue to follow his plan for our life. So hopefully that's been encouraging for you. Check out Exodus 14 this week, and I just hope that you have the best week that you can, and that will be both sustained and ready for that next step that God has for us.